come through. I think Mike Pompeo is extraordinary. He was number one at West Point. He was top at Harvard. He's a great gentleman. I think he'll go down as truly a great Secretary of State. I will say this about Rand Paul. He's never let me down. Rand Paul is a very special guy as far as I'm concerned. He's never let me down. And I don't think he'll let us down again. So let's see what happens. If you remember, he voted for health care, and he did us a big favor. It was somebody else that voted against it that hurt us. So I have a lot of confidence in Rand, but I also have a great deal of confidence in Mike Pompeo. I think Mike Pompeo will go down as one of the great Secretary of States. And by the way, he just left North Korea, had a great meeting with Kim Jong-un, and got along with him really well, really great. And he's that kind of a guy. He's very smart, but he gets along with people. So I think that Mike will be in good shape. We'll see what happens. You know, a lot of people are predicting other things, but I have a feeling it's going to work out very well, and I think our country really needs him. He's going to be a great leader.
One of the reasons that Rand Paul said he doesn't want to vote for Mike Pompeo is because a lot of his previous record, which is considered kind of hawkish, and he's worried, you know, he supported a President Trump that was elected on promising to get the U.S. out of entanglements abroad. You know, Rand Paul is really not interested in, you know, kind of U.S. military overseas, was against the Iraq War, is against any kind of military action, really. And so he, at the confirmation hearing, was saying to Mike Pompeo, you know, I think you're going to be, you know, taking Trump away from those instincts and into war. So it's interesting that we're talking about Mike Pompeo going to North Korea and trying to enact diplomacy with North Korea. This was a man about a year ago was, you know, kind of suggesting maybe there should be regime change in North Korea. So now he's going to be the Secretary of State, if confirmed. He will be the top diplomat. And the idea that he's the one kind of navigating this, I think what the president was trying to say to Rand Paul is, this is who I want as my top diplomat, and I hope you won't let me down.
You just heard the president, I mean, basically just boom, put the ball back in the court of Rand Paul, saying he hasn't let me down. What's Rand Paul's volley back?
You know, I always stammer when I talk about Rand Paul because he's just a little different than what I'm used to. Look, I have a lot of respect for him. He cuts his own path, and so the fact that he hasn't let the president down is frankly quite remarkable to me so far. And maybe he won't let him down again. I think that maybe this whole olive branch and sending Pompeo to North Korea was very much directed at Rand Paul, because this is the kind of thing that Rand Paul would like to see done, which is a sort of a de-escalation of hostilities. America playing less of a pronounced role in the world, and Pompeo, arguably, someone who I agree with very much on foreign policy, has been much more of a hardliner. So I think the fact that Pompeo showed that, you know, he has these skills too, and that he works for the president, not the other way around, hopefully will be a signal to Paul that this is someone they can vote for.
Paul, what do you think about it?
I think that, well, first I think Rick could be the Secretary of State. That was such a diplomatic answer.
Thank you. Not interested.
Okay, but I do think that there's a real problem. Donald Trump, you know, he calls himself a Republican. He's really a third-party candidate. And he's held together this uneasy coalition with the establishment Republicans. He ran as a non-interventionist. At least described it perfectly. Senator Paul represents a lot of folks, and all across the country, really, who have that same view. Conservatives who believe that we should disengage, as the president promised the other day. We're going to disengage from Syria. And the next day, he's lobbing missiles. It's really hard to know where he's going to land, and I know a lot of non-interventionist conservatives who are very upset by the president hiring John Bolton, who was one of the architects of the Iraq War. So this is a really delicate time for the president. He's going to have to decide, like, do you want to be in TPP or not? He's had both positions in the last 10 days. Do you want to be in Syria or not? And now, we'll see if he gets Pompeo. But if he doesn't, it's going to be because of folks like Rand Paul.
So there has been all this confirmation drama. Just Senator, back over to you. Rand Paul has said no. Obviously, a lot of Democrats are saying no, and I don't know if they'll have the numbers, and maybe they'll somehow force it to a full floor vote. Do you think that the notion, here's the president and Prime Minister Abe down in Mar-a-Lago, and we know this secret meeting happened about a month ago, and it gets leaked, and it gets out there in the last 24 or so hours. Do you think that the North Korea meeting was leaked because of all this drama over Pompeo and whether or not he gets the nod?
Well, first off, I think Pompeo is going to get confirmed. Whether he has an up or down, a positive vote in committee, as you know, that doesn't stop the nomination from moving forward. The nomination can still come forward, and I think he'll have the votes on the floor to pass. So Mike Pompeo is going to be the next Secretary of State. So but I understand how the president would like to see a positive vote in committee, and that's something that is important. Whether it was leaked at that, I don't know. I mean, leaks are so prevalent in this White House. It's hard for me to imagine what people's modus operandi for leaking something like this. But I think the timing was good from my perspective if you want to try to properly influence Senator Paul.